Okay, so this is an 18 by 24 inch piece of paper, and I'm gonna print it onto a piece of aluminum. I'm gonna take you through every step of the process. I'm just gonna document everything I do to make this. I'm gonna show you where I buy all of my material, from the frames to the blanks. I'll show you the paper, the heat press, all the settings and everything. The first thing I need to do is find a cutter, and I'm gonna cut this paper, and I'm just gonna get the excess off of it. This just gets it out of the way. You don't need to do this at all. I just like to do it. It fits in the heat press a little bit better. So get rid of all that. And then, here, I'll show you the picture. It's a Dodge, I think it's a TRX. Looks pretty cool. It's gonna be a cool picture when it's done. It doesn't look like that. That's a lot more faded, has a lot less color to it. It'll look a lot nicer when it's done. I need a panel, which I keep over here. Don't mind this whole mess, but I keep everything down here out of the way, especially the big ones. This is what it looks like. All right, so this, for starters, we're gonna get this out of the way here. This blank comes from Beijing Beauty Sub. That is where all of my blanks come from. I don't know the brand of it. It's not Chromlux. It's pretty much just as good. It's the same quality. The only difference is the white in it on this is a slightly more yellow than Chromlux. They have like almost a bluish tint to them. It's like a pure white. So you pull this clear stuff off. Let's see if I can get it here. It's hard to get off. You gotta be careful not to touch the panel at all. I like to check these out and just make sure there's nothing on them. When you pull the plastic off, sometimes you can see little specks of dirt or any little nicks in them, whatever it might be. You just want to make sure there's nothing on it. I buy them from Beijing Beauty Sub. They are a website. You can't order through the website, so you have to contact them. They'll give you a list, blah, blah, blah. You go through that whole process. These blanks come from there. They come from China. There's not much to it. They don't have a brand name. They're called Beauty Sub, but I don't know the actual name of these blanks. They are expensive. I haven't really recommended them to anybody because it's hard to direct people to something like that. They have every size you can imagine, from this big all the way up to like 4 foot, 5 foot by 8 feet. I obviously can't do that right now. This is one of the larger sizes that I'm able to do, but super nice quality. They're not cheap. They cost almost as much as Chromlux panels, which some of you have probably checked out and didn't want to buy because they were expensive. They're not as expensive, but they are more than everywhere else that you're gonna shop. The problem is that they look cheap, and then when you go to place an order, if you're in America, coming from China, the shipping is crazy expensive. So basically anything you buy from there is going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So if it costs $15 for one of these panels, it's really gonna be 30 with shipping. That's kind of how you're gonna break it down. I don't understand what they do to calculate the shipping. I have no idea. I've tried to kind of figure it out myself. What I do is just take the total order value, add the shipping, divide it by the amount of products you have, and that is your cost per product, even though they all vary in cost because they're different sizes. To give you a more exact example of what I am talking about, I just placed an order for 80 panels total. The cost for the panels was $1,040. After that, I had to pay, one second. After that, my shipping came out to $1,140. So the total cost was $2,180 for everything. That means my shipping was more than the actual panels. So that is your 1-to-1. It's a little bit more than 1-to-1 actually, but sometimes depending on what you order, it will be less. So you may have something that is $1,000 and your shipping is $750. If you're in Australia and you're closer, you may have much better shipping. For America, on the East Coast, it's not very good. Now, something I didn't show when I was putting this panel over the paper is make sure the paper is clean as well as the panel. A lot of times I'll get dust on it or something, so you just gotta blow it off. It helps to have an air compressor. I don't have one hooked up right now. I have a setup for it over there, but it's not ready to go. It needs to be wired in. After that, I just get this all lined up. I print a bleed edge all around the image because it shrinks a little bit in the heat press. So this is 18 by 24, but I print it at 18.2 and 24.2 all the way around. So it's that 0.2 inch bleed edge. Works really well. When it's finished, it leaves a little bit hanging over, but it kind of is what it is. If you do it to the exact size, it will shrink and there'll be a white or black border around your panel. So line that up, and then I take my heat tape, which I get on Amazon, for anyone wondering. It's just called heat tape. I think it's the 10mm version. Super, super cheap. You get a bunch of rolls for like 10 bucks. I tape all the corners and the sides. So I put 8 pieces on. Put it all down here. This is kind of the boring part. I do this all day. If you're sick of getting tape on your hands, you're gonna have to deal with it. Then that's done. So what this kind of allows is just when I flip it over, it's not gonna have the paper flapping around anywhere. It's not gonna be able to get dirt and dust on the inside here before it goes in the press. Sometimes it happens. I use this as a packing station as well. There's cardboard all over it. You can't really avoid it. So once the image is prepped, the next thing I'm gonna do is I have this unwaxed butcher paper that I also buy on Amazon. This is a 24-inch roll. It goes inside my heat press. What I do with this is I cut it out. So I line it up on this cutting mat here, which is one of the reasons I have this cutting mat. And I go out to 30, it's 32. I line it up with the 1, so I really go up to about 35. And I cut 2 pieces of this. One for the top and one for the bottom. I don't like to get any ink on my heat press at all. Other than that, I don't know what this is useful for, but I still do it anyways, even if I'm not gonna get ink on it, because everyone else does it. And maybe that's not a good thing to do just because everyone else does it, but oh well. The other thing though is when you're using this paper, the top piece can get reused because it doesn't get any ink on it. So really you only cut one new piece every time you put it into the heat press. This is actually an old one. I didn't have to cut that other one. And then I'm gonna take my panel and grab it right here. And I'm gonna set that in here. And I didn't warm up the heat press yet, so I'm gonna click that on actually. Turn that on. And what I've been doing lately is 5 minutes for 175 degrees Celsius, which is about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. For the longest time, I was doing 395 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 minutes, and that works good on my smaller heat press for smaller prints, but this one was having issues with a lot of fading inside these big prints, and so I cranked the pressure way down, up the time limit, and decreased the temperature just a little bit, and everything has been coming out perfect lately. So that's been good. I'm gonna let that warm up, and then I'm gonna put the other piece of paper in, and I'll let it run for that time, and when it's done, I'll show you it. While that's warming up, I'm gonna get these frames here, and I'm gonna show you guys how I build them. Sorry if they're very loud. They are loud in here. What I'm gonna do is I have a drawer over here that I keep all my frame material in. So I grab that out. Here, we're gonna lay our frame out. Now I buy these from Beijing Beauty Sub, same place I buy the blanks from. They got a million different sizes of these as well. Hangers, the place has everything. They have back metal plates that you can hang on, a million different sublimation blanks and everything. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I need 8 screws. This is kind of the annoying part. They used to send me these all put together, but basically I have to put 2 screws in each one of these little corner brackets, and this they're like set screws so that you can tighten them down, and it pushes the spacer in between the frame here and expands and tightens it. This part I don't like doing. You always got to count them out. At most it only takes 10 minutes though. It's really not that bad. The only hard part is trying to get the screws in because they don't like to sometimes. I would almost pay them slightly extra if somebody else just put these in for me. I guess that's what an employee does, right? So got those in. Then I put them in the corners here. For everyone wondering the name, they always ask for the name. They're called shadow frames, I believe. I don't, This one's bent. Grab a new one. They come from a big factory, obviously, so not everything is going to be perfect. It's very rare that one is bent. Actually, I'm surprised it was. I think that was from yesterday when I found it. But you put all of these in together. 1, 2, 3, 4. I always do the bottom one on its own bracket like this so that I can slide it up. If not, it's kind of a pain to just work your way around. Okay, that's in, and then I take a screwdriver and I almost treat it like a wheel, where I just kind of like snug them in a little bit, not much at all on the first way around. Kind of just sets it, and then I'll go around on my second lap, and I will, like a star pattern, crank them down. I don't know if this does anything, but sometimes these are kind of hard to get to lay level and flat, and so I feel like if I go corner to corner, it allows it to work a little bit better. And I have a trick if it doesn't, which isn't much of a trick, it's just called bending it, but it works pretty well. So look at that, and that's level. So that worked out perfect. Usually once it's level, I will crank these down a little bit more if I need to. It's usually not necessary. From there, that's done. 3M tape, double-sided tape, Scotch 3M, yeah. Everyone asks the name of it, I say 3M, or they ask what type of 3M. I don't know, the white kind. So what we're gonna do is, these are 12 inches by 20 inches. So normally I cut these at about 11 inches on the sides for the tape, and these will be 18 probably. An easy way is, oh, I need scissors. I can never find, there we go. If I can get it. Okay, so I'll line it up here, and I'll just cut it. It's pretty rough. Cut. And then for these long parts, if I don't know what it is, easy way is just go and done. This stuff is so strong, you don't need to go all the way across. I like to. I don't know why I'm doing that. It's not necessary. You could probably put a strip that big on all corners and it'd be fine. I don't like to do that though. Line that up, and then you just kind of eyeball it on. Sometimes I worry that, it's really cold up here in New England, and I worry that if the packages are outside for too long, that this tape could maybe not be good, or I question what it'll be like in a few years when I've been doing this for a while. I don't know what else to do. Someone said JB Weld. I thought about it, but I worried that would also come undone because panels flex and everything else. Seems kind of risky to do anything other than real adhesive tape. Anything that could harden would just crack, I think, and fall off. And so, lots of questions, lots of learning. You gotta try different things, mess with different stuff. This was recommended by the company, Beijing Beauty Sub. They provide this. They recommend when you buy the frames that you buy this stuff too. You can probably buy it somewhere else. Way more expensive, I would assume. These are big rolls like this. I have a pile of these, probably 20 rolls of these. While we're waiting on this heat press to warm up, I figured I'd show you it. It's a off-brand Kilo. It's basically the exact same thing. It's 32 inches by 24 inches, 220 volt, 240 volt, whatever. I had to have it wired up because I didn't have the power for it. And then let's break down this printer real quick because a lot of you ask about that as well. Okay, so this is an Epson F570 sublimation printer. Prints up to 23 inches wide, I believe, and then as long as you want. So I'm able to do 20 by 30 inches is the biggest print that I do. I guess I could go bigger, but you can't. I could go longer, like wider, but that's about it. This thing works great. It is not a regular printer like a lot of you have asked. It's sublimation. It takes sublimation ink and paper. It was $2,500, I believe. I think it was worth it. If you're a hobbyist, it's probably not worth it. You're probably going to want something smaller. I don't know. I can't recommend anything. I've never used anything else. I'm not a hobbyist, so it's been decent for business. It is slow. I don't know if it's my internet or what goes on here. It prints very, very, very slow, especially dark colors. The paper in it is, it's roll paper. It's not sheet paper. Condi, dyetrans.com, whatever it's called, that is what I buy. It's their brand of it. It works great. It's the only place I know of, honestly. I don't know anywhere else that has it. That's about it. There's not much to it. It's very simple to set up, and you're ready to go. All right, this bad boy is warmed up, and I'm gonna lock that down for 5 minutes. A lot of people say, I have seen, they've recommended not to use these clamshell style these heat presses. It's all I've used. This was a lot cheaper than buying one of those pneumatic ones that you press a button, they're air compressed, they go down and lock down. If I could afford that, or if I had the space for it really, I guess I could buy one. I just don't have anywhere to put it. I would probably have one, but this was the best that I can do, and honestly, this has worked great. I think this was $2,300, $2,500, so between the heat press and the printer, you're talking $5,000. Well worth it. It's been good so far. The thing I love about it most, honestly, is my other heat press that's tiny takes like 20 minutes to heat up. This thing takes like 8 or 9, which is a lot faster, and I can put a lot more prints on it. So if I'm doing like a 12 by 18 and a 12 by 12 or whatever, I can put a couple in here and do them all at once instead of putting them in a small one and doing them one by one, because it only fits so many, because it's only 16 by 20 inches on a small one. Also, when this panel comes out, when I open this up, there's gonna be a ton of smoke, and I don't know what it is. It's something about the material that they use when they build the aluminum panels. Whatever like coating they put on them, smokes terribly, it smells horrible, it probably give you cancer and every other thing you can think of. The longer I cook it, I've noticed that there's less smoke. I don't know what that is. It probably just absorbs it or just cooks it a little bit better. I opened my garage door after this because it needs to clear everything out. I'll have a fan put in at some point. It's not in yet, so I just kind of deal with it right now. This office always smells horrible though. I hate the smell of it. Everyone hates the smell of it. It will probably kill me at some point. Hopefully not. This thing is done here. I put on these heat gloves because it's 350 degrees, and I have grabbed it before barehanded. Does not feel very good. I only did it when I was not paying attention. I'm gonna put it over here on a cooling rack. If you get it out of the heat press, it cools down much faster. If you leave it in this thing, it will stay hot for like 30 minutes. So this will cool down in about 2 minutes, and then it'll be ready to pull the paper off. This thing is cooled off. So I'm going to pull the paper off of it, and it looks great, like usual. Looks perfect, actually. I had to, for this one, tone down the orange a little bit because orange likes to shine through on these. I don't really know why. This is a very orange image, as you'll see in a second here. Let me just pull this tape off. You can pull it off all the corners. Nice part about a shop is you can just throw everything on the floor. And that is what it looks like. I hope you can see that. Looks awesome. And so that is set. I'm going to take this, I don't know what this is called. It's 4 images. I buy it on Uline. I wish I had the name of it. I will try to link it below so any of you guys can get it. It's to wrap these so that they don't get any scratches or dust on them. Very helpful. Uline is also another great place where I buy all my packing material. I love them because they come like next day. The only thing is they are really expensive for shipping, but you know, you get what you pay for. It's worth it. I'm always willing to pay extra for good things. This is one of them, and it's not like I sell my stuff for cheap either. So if you're gonna sell stuff for expensive, you gotta be willing to pay for expensive, I guess. Even though it's not always fun. This is where this cutting mat is really helpful. I don't have jigs, and a lot of people have been telling me to get jigs or make them, and I keep meaning to. I really just don't care to. I was hoping someone would do it for me and I could just pay them, but I didn't give anyone the measurements, so I don't know how they're gonna do that. So maybe I'll have to make my own. And then I'm losing stuff here. This is the problem with a little bigger office, is I don't know where anything is. This ruler, and this is a 18 by 24, so I'm just going down 2 and into for this one. So just line it up, make sure it's good. This is actually like the longest process, putting these frames on, and it doesn't take very long. Down 2, into. Different size blanks have different measurements, so if anyone wants to make me some jigs and I can buy them from you, maybe you have a 3D printer. These panels are 1.15 millimeters thick. The frame sits in, there's 3 sizes. Either goes in 2 inches and in 1 inch, or in 2 and in 2, or in 3 and in 3. So 1 inch by 2 inches, 2 inches by 2 inches, and 3 inches by 3 inches. So if you have a 3D printer or something, you could help me out with that. That would be awesome. I'll pay you for them, obviously. That would save me a lot of time. All it needs to do is, I say they're 1.15 millimeters thick because it needs to lock in to the side of the panel, obviously, so that it doesn't move. And then I can take the frame here, and I would be able to I'd be able to slide it right in, and then it would just lock in. I wouldn't have to do any measurements. It'd be the same every single time. Sometimes these frames are not exactly straight, and I don't know why that is. Just the way they cut them or the way tighten them down, whatever. I just pull these. What I do is I take this adhesive tape to put these on. As you can see, I'm peeling this off. I take these corners and I just tuck them out a little bit so that I can get at them when I put this frame on here. And then I just line up the corners on the 2 dots. I press this down. Make sure it's pretty tight, and then take your ruler, measure one side. I have little dots on this one, so that one's pretty easy. Pull that off. And then just line it up on the same dot. There, double check it. Looks good. Pull it off, pull it off, pull it off. I'm gonna press this down here. Just making sure that this goes on really good. You don't want these falling off in, a few years. People have had them for a while, especially if it falls on someone's head. Wouldn't be very good. Might be a little bit of a lawsuit or something right there. If it's warm, they say leaving it on for 24 hours is a good time to let the adhesive sit. It seems to lock in better. I don't know what there is to that, but try it, I guess. I don't really wait 24 hours to send these out. I usually pack it up and it's gone. What I'm gonna do now is, I guess I'll show you it. Even though I just showed you it. So that is done. And it looks awesome. And that is the frame on the back side of it. So, yeah, looks really cool. Didn't realize how many people were gonna want these these bigger ones. I always sold small ones in the beginning, and I didn't know that people were gonna want the big ones until I released them. And then a lot of you did, so thank you. But I take this paper stuff now, and I just tuck it all along the edges here. And I try to make it as tight as possible. And then I actually use this heat tape, which I'm about to run out of. I use this heat tape to hold it down because it doesn't leave any residue, I don't believe, on the aluminum, unlike like a packing tape. Packing tape would, it does leave residue on it, and nobody wants that. So I fold all four corners, and this keeps it really tight on the panel so that, again, dust and nothing else is going to get on it, no scratches. These do, you know, they scratch a little bit easy, but not that bad. Don't touch them. Like, don't rub your hands all over them. I wouldn't recommend doing that, especially if you have a black one. Like, some people want an all black image, like a logo, and highly recommend do not touch those with your hands. If you're gonna wipe them off, like, wipe them like, I don't even, like, barely touch it when you wipe it, and use a very soft rag. You will see scratches. I also have a very bright office, so anything that happens on these things, I can see every little dust particle, versus if you're in your house and it's got like normal lighting, you're probably not gonna see any of it. Okay, we're gonna do one more thing here. We're gonna pack this whole thing up and show you how I wrap it. So this is styrofoam. Also buy this from Uline. All my packing stuff comes from Uline. And I have to set this on here, fold this edge over. I pull this. I don't have a good setup for this right now, so this is kind of how I do it. It's not very great at all. But take it, keep folding it, slide it down a little bit, grab this, and I just cut it like that. Then I grab tape, make sure it's tight, fold it over, tape it down, and then I do it again on the other side. If I had a wider roll, this would be a little bit faster and easier, but I haven't even looked to see if they have them. I just buy this one because it fits all the sizes. It's 12 inches wide, so it works pretty good. Tight again, get it good, and that is it. And after that, I grab a pair of gloves. These are what you can wear when you pull them out of the box that I sent to you. And I also need a bracket. This bracket right here, this goes on the wall. It is 9 inches long. That is this size for this size print. I put it in here, and you also need screws, which I have right here. You take both those screws, level it, put it on the wall, and then it sits inside the frame. It locks in, very sturdy. It's not going anywhere. Those brackets are also sold on the same website as all the other material. I recommend using them if you are going to buy frames because it's more sturdy than hanging on a screw or a nail, and it looks a lot better. It's more professional. I like them. It's worth it. They don't cost much extra. They're probably a couple dollars.